Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Rock Your Reinvention, the show that gives you all the tips and tools you need to reinvent your life by interviewing amazing women who have already been there, done that. And I am so excited to have my friend Valerie Walsh on today. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Karen. Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm better now that you're here. This is going to be a really fun conversation. I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second, but Valerie and I met through our book writing. So through my first book and her book that we're going to talk about in a minute, we came to know each other just through the same circle. We shared our, well, not really an editor, but he was my editor. He was her book publisher. And anyway, we have become basically book sisters. So we published our first book right around the same time, and now we're both getting ready to publish our second book. So I'm really excited to have you on and share more about your story and your reinvention. So if you would, just take a minute to tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I am Valerie J. Walsh, and I say that because there's a funny backstory with that when I had to come up with my pen name, so to speak. Apparently, so I have to have like muscle memory was saying I'm Valerie J. Walsh because the other Valerie Walsh is a writer of a very popular children's story, Dora the Explorer.
Whoa, interesting.
So I'm the other Valerie Walsh, Valerie J. Walsh, and I'm the author of Shattered to the Core, a memoir. But I'm also a mom. I have two kids. One is 23. She's my daughter, Bailey, and my son, who's 17, almost 18, which is crazy to me. Colin, who's actually here in the background. You might hear him in a little bit, but such is live, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a mom. Now I'm a published author of one book, going on my second book. I had 25 years in the fitness industry as a personal trainer and fitness coach, and taught everything from spinning to pretty much anything that didn't involve a dance step or a step aerobic step.
Okay.
More of your boot camp type of classes and whatnot. And, you know, I still dabble in that, but on my free time, because it's just always going to be a part of me. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love the way you kind of said, but not anything that involves a dance step. And I think so many times, right, depending on what we're exposed to, we think of fitness in one specific way. And I always tell people, like, your fitness does not have to even involve going into a gym. Like, it could be walking, it could be hiking in nature. I mean, there's so many different ways to experience fitness. Maybe you do love dance and you want to do ballroom dancing. I mean, there's so many ways to get exercise and activity in that it doesn't have to be this one size fits all, go to the gym thing.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's funny you bring that up, Karen, because I've worked, although I worked in the gym because that's, you know, what paid my bills. And it's just like the area that we live in does cater to outdoor fitness a bit. I'm in New England, but I just came back from Colorado and I went to Red Rocks Amphitheater, and I got up in the morning before everybody else woke up, and I'm like, I'm going to go check it out, because I was looking online, and essentially the amphitheater is an outdoor gym before they have any concert at night. It's like an outdoor gym. And I just sat back, like this world was not the world of outdoor fitness, because that's kind of my jam. But like I'm in Colorado from New England, and I'm sitting down in the amphitheater, just like I'm with my peeps. These are my people, you know, just looking, like using their surroundings. And I'm right on the same page with you with that. Like it's my fitness has evolved to trying to really speak about it's more movement. Movement is medicine. And whatever that is, just get out and move.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those watching, if you have a favorite way that you get your exercise, drop it in the comments. Like, let's create a conversation around this. I'm curious to see what others like to do. So you were a fitness instructor to begin with, trainer. You've done this for over 20 years. What made you want to become an author and a speaker?
And forgive me if I seem like I'm hesitating on my end, because my house is on top of a mountain. It's a little delayed. So if it seems funny on your end, just stick in there, people, because, you know, you'll get out something from it. So it was all a response to circumstances, right? Like there was no plan. Like, honest to God, if you had asked me maybe not 5 years now, let's go back like 8, 10 years before this. if I had pictured I was going to be a published author or even walk away from being a personal trainer into something new, I would have thought you were crazy, but it was just the way life went. So what happened was, if I'm just going to go right into it, in 2013, and this is just a little trigger warning, I will be talking a little bit about suicide, because in 2013, my mother died by suicide. And I want to stop there because I'd like to take this time to say why I use that language, died by suicide versus committed suicide, because I am a mental health advocate. I strongly believe that mental health, or mental health, if you have mental health problems, it's a disease, just like any other disease. So if somebody passed away from cancer, you wouldn't say, oh, they committed cancer. Like it just, oh, they committed that cancer thing and passed away. And you guys will find out pretty soon, ladies, that I have a pretty dark sense of humor. It's just the way I get through life. So my mother's final symptom of her depression and her untreated and sometimes overtreated symptoms from her mental illness, her final symptom was her suicide in 2013. So when we lost my mom, I just went into survival mode. Like I was just like, okay, this is the next thing we do. We have to go through her home, and now we bury her, and now we bury our feelings. Like it was just like, I just want things to go back to normal. My kids were younger. This is 10 years ago. So my daughter was 13 and my son was 8. And I just wanted to go back to being a trainer, a mom, a wife. And, I did that by making the wrong choices. And I continued to drink. I went back to those default things I was used to. I am in recovery now, where I worked hard and then I played hard on the weekends and I buried my feelings. And then it was only about 2 months later, I found out that something was going on with me medically. I was approaching 40 years old, so I had all these standard appointments, one of them being a mammogram and an ultrasound. So I had these cells that were found in my breast tissue. It's called lobular carcinoma in situ. Years ago, it would have been diagnosed as stage 0 breast cancer, LCIS. Because I'm a thyroid cancer survivor, I decided right then and there, my gut told me something was hormonally linked. And again, I was just in survival mode. I decided I'm not going to go through worrying about this too. What do I have to do to put this behind me as fast as I can? So to make a long story short, I did the lumpectomy, the biopsies, this, that, and the other thing. And I made the ultimate decision to have a mastectomy. Wow. And that's when I started writing. Did not plan on writing. What I was doing was I was journaling all of my medical stuff if I had to share it with another woman, because I know when I was going through it, you forget things. Like God, 3 to 5 years from when I was past it, if somebody had asked me, because they have stints, and I'm like, gosh, I don't remember what happened after that biopsy, or I don't remember what that was like for me. At least I would have some notes I could share. So that's how it started. And then what I found was, but then I had I just didn't know, and then the more I started talking into my phone or writing things down, I started talking about and journaling about the emotion underneath all of that. And that's how that happened, Karen. I just started really journaling. And at first it was very clinical, and then it became emotional.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you said so many things I want to unpack here. So starting with she died by suicide. What a fresh take on that. And I think that there's a lot of people that could really benefit from that kind of understanding, right? Because I agree with you. It is mental health is a disease, right? When you are suffering and through depression and anxiety, and you're right, that's kind of like the ultimate symptom. So thank you for sharing that. And I can see why you're a mental health advocate, because you're so good at bringing these things out. The other thing that I think is really powerful is just the process that you went through to write this book. It wasn't like you sat down on day one and said, I'm going to write a book. Okay, chapter 1 is going to be this. Chapter 2 is that. That's one way to do it for sure. But I just want the people listening to this to realize, you don't have to know when you begin a process or you start something what the ultimate outcome is going to be. You didn't know that this was going to become a book. You were just like, hey, I don't want to forget these things. I want to be able to share them with other women and help others if they're going through a tough time. And that, I think, is really powerful because it takes a lot of pressure off people to be like perfect or have a plan, have it all figured out. You don't have to have it all figured out.
100%, 100%. And I just want to like touch on what you said really quick about the whole mental health advocacy, because first and foremost, I think I'm coachable, and I've always remained coachable with anything I've done in life. So when I wrote my book, I wanted people to, when I was ready to get it, like start querying for a literary agency, which never worked for me, by the way, subject for another time. I contacted some people I knew that were in mental health advocacy. And one young lady taught me about not using the word or the verbiage committed suicide. It was all in my manuscript. Like,
oh my gosh.
He schooled me on that. I was like, okay, when we know better, we do better. So I did like a total search in the text of when I used that and changed that language and have been using it ever since. So I'd like to credit her for that. Yeah. And then back to what you were saying about kind of like, you know, getting involved in something and waiting until we're ready. Don't. If I waited until I was ready for anything, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm not saying you have to like, you know, go out and not have some sort of plan, but what works for somebody may not work for another person. And I'm going to use my recovery program as an example for that. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about, because I'm just going to invite people from all walks of life, right? Let's get the entrepreneurs. Let's get the people in recovery. Let's get the mental health peeps. Let's get peeps. So when I talk about my recovery program, I don't like to mention specifically which one I'm a part of to respect its tradition, its of anonymity. But if you're going to listen to the language I'm using, you're probably going to pick up what I'm putting down. When I first started recovery, I was like, I wanted to do it perfectly. Like that's the mindset of you know, most type A people, most type A women. Like, oh, yeah. What do I have to do? Give me my homework. I'm going to do it in order. I'm going to, you know, to get where I need to get. It was a process. Like my recovery program, the foundation of it, or the foundation of what you need to do to write a book or whatever the goals are that you want to reach are pretty much going to look the same, but your map might be a little bit different. Your process might be a little bit different. What I was taught in my recovery program was that I had to call my sponsor each and every day. I had to go to a meeting each and every day. I couldn't do that. It just didn't fit into my life. But there were other things I could do to get to where I wanted to go, which was to become sober. So there were things I needed to do when I wrote Shattered to the Core that didn't work for me when I started surrounding myself with people like yourself. Like I just went online and I tried to find people that were really good at what I wanted to start doing. So yeah. I remember you popped up on Instagram. I'm like, oh, I like her. I like her energy. I like what she has to say. She's smart. She's supportive. So I inboxed you and I started doing something like that. Like it just starts with like if you don't know what you're doing, why would you just
go learn?
What do you call it?
I said, go learn. Find the person who can show you, right?
Sorry, Amanda. I thought you said goaler. I'm like, yes, we surround ourselves with goalers. We just token a new word.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember I listened to, I think it was, I'm going to forget who it was, but it was a writer, producer of movies. And somebody asked him that question. Like, did you start with an outline? He's like, no, because that would like put a ton of pressure on myself of I have to fit into that little box.
Sure.
Yeah. My process was much different than most authors I speak to, but it worked.
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? We don't have to compare ourselves to other people or be like, hey, they did it exactly this way. I have to do it that way. So, and the other thing I just want to say is I love how you were present to the nudges, right? From your higher power, from the universe, putting these ideas in your head. Hey, you should write this down. I mean, that's a clue. That is a signal from your higher consciousness that's like, there's a reason I should write this down. Okay, I'm going to follow through. I'm going to listen to my heart or listen to that inner voice. Because like me, you know, neither of us have been dreaming about being an author since we were a kid, little things were said or things happened in our lives where we suddenly realized, oh, I think I have a book here. Why don't I explore that and see where that takes me? And I think that that's really beautiful. And so many women right now, they have so many distractions, alcohol being one of them, and things that are preventing them from seeing that and hearing and connecting to their intuition. And we're missing out these little opportunities to reinvent our lives.
100%. I call that my core. I call that my core. I call it my core for a number of reasons. It was an acronym I used when I was a trainer. And now, it's part of the title of my first book. And a lot of what I'm writing about in my second book is, at the bottom line, listening to your tuition. Now, I would tell my kids a lot, follow your heart, but don't forget to take your mind with you, and that's not mine. That's somebody else's. I don't know whose, but it stuck with me. Follow your heart, follow your intuition, have some sort of plan. I mean, if we don't have some sort of plan, then we're just not being responsible. But at the end of the day, try to, your intuition will never mislead you. Whether that intuition, I think you and I are on the same page where we know our intuition is our God, our higher power. For me, it's when I feel closest to spirit is when I can just rein it in, get grounded, and listen to what my intuition, the Holy Spirit, is telling me.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. So let's talk about fear, because I think fear is the biggest thing holding women back. And so I'm just curious, as you started on this journey of author and speaker and mental health advocate and all that stuff, what fears did you have and how did you overcome them?
Well, I link fear to most of the way I lived my life. And usually when I responded to fear, I was always wrong. So if I could pause for a minute and say, okay, what helps you overcome your fears or work through them? And that's kind of like fear marries with anxiety for me. Okay. And what helps me kind of manage my anxiety is to take action. So say I was fearful over, when you're talking about, sticking on the topic of writing, failure, right? Or fear of failure of not knowing the literary industry. I just try to learn more and keep it really, really, really simple. So when I was in the process of actually writing the book, I didn't even look at how I was going to market it yet because I wasn't there yet. And I knew if I thought about like, oh my gosh, I have to build this platform. Social media, I use it. I had a little bit of a base when I was a personal trainer, but nothing like what I needed when I became an author, because it was just different platforms, different tools. So I was like, okay, don't learn that yet. What is going to be your next thing you need to learn? Oh, you might want to get published. Before I thought about self-publishing, I wanted to pick up an agent. So I need to learn how to write a query letter. So that's what I did. I just took it piece by piece. In my family, we call it just taking little chunk-sized bites, little bites. Because if I thought about, you want to think about the big picture in retrospect to the goal you want to hit. But before you think about that big picture, just think about the little things you need to do every day to conquer those fears, to make yourself feel more confident in what you're doing. Because if I take on too much, then I'm going to talk myself out of something. Does that make sense?
It totally. Yes. Yes. And action really is the antidote to overwhelm. Like when we look at the big picture and we think, oh my gosh, I have all these things to do. Just pick one thing and start. I did a presentation recently and I showed a picture of like a big, huge spiral staircase. And I go, if you stand at the bottom of those stairs and you look up and go, how am I ever going to climb all these stairs? You're not going to get started because it's going to feel so heavy. But if you just go, okay, there's one stair in front of me. Let me put my foot on that stair. Okay, I did it. That wasn't so scary. Now there's another stair in front of me. What do I need to do to get my foot up on that stair? And all of a sudden you turn around and go, I'm halfway up the staircase. Holy crap, I am going to do this thing, and you just soar.
You surround yourself with supportive women. It's so important, Karen, because people are going to try to, usually the ones who love you most, unfortunately, are going to try to talk you out of something scary.
Yep. Something weird happened with my camera. I'm still here, but I'm going to try to figure that out while you keep talking. I don't know.
Sure, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think we're on a bit of a delay, so sorry if I cut you off there. But yeah, in the beginning, when I first of all, I didn't tell a lot of people that I was going to write a book. And then when I started, I had some people that were near and dear in my life that brought up all of the things that might hold me back. And I just kind of try to filter that out and spend my time with people who were in that industry, who kind of understood it and was like, yeah, you can totally do this, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, there you are.
You did. They told you you could do it, and then you did. And it's like that action leads to proof and leads to that confidence so that you can get rid of those fears and overcome them. So something else I always love to talk about with authors is asking about the point at when they really owned the title author, because I think that that is one of the hardest things. I know I struggled with saying author, and a lot of times I would immediately discount it. I'd say, well, I'm an author. Well, I haven't published anything yet, but I'm writing a book. Like, and I really had struggled to just take that on and go, damn it, no, I'm an author, whether I've made money from my book yet or not. So how did that go for you?
I wish I could remember the series. There's a series apparently on Netflix. I'll have to put it in the comments after this pops up. But I remember a girlfriend used to tease me, "You're a published author, damn it." Like, there was some series that said that. And it's like, why can't you say that out loud? And, you know, it really was like just in my DNA of, oh, this is too good to be true. Like, this is things are going really well. This is going to be taken away. And, you know, mental health professionals, therapists would call that imposter syndrome. Okay. I didn't know anything about imposter syndrome, although I was living it for most of my life. And it was just like that kind of like routine of, you know, things are going well, and when is the carpet going to be ripped out? I felt that way with this. So like Valerie J. Walsh, it was just muscle memory. Fake it till you make it. It's like, keep saying it. And you know what? That's what I wanted to be. So it wasn't actually until my book got published. I think I can't name a time, but I know it was after a couple like in-person meet the author events where I'm like, well, it's advertised that way, I better start saying it. But it took me a little while. It definitely wasn't until after Shattered to the Core actually launched that I could say it out loud. Isn't that funny how we did that to ourselves?
Yes, yes. But it's so common. And I see it all the time in my clients, and they'll have that thinking like, okay, this is going really well, but Karen, when's the other shoe going to drop? I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so it's sort of retraining yourself and catching yourself that when you start to have those thoughts, like, maybe there is no shoe to drop. Maybe the rug isn't going to get pulled out from under you, believing that you're worthy also of that, right? And that you do deserve the success that you have achieved. That can be another thing that, you know, I see a lot of women need to work on.
100%. Yep. Absolutely.
No thanks to society, I'm sure, right? There's so many messages out there and things that we've picked up along the way through our lives, you know, things that parents said to us, or coaches or teachers or friends, or, you know, from wherever. And we internalize a lot of those things. And then as we get older, it's like, okay, wait, does this serve me? Do I really believe these thoughts?
Yeah. Well, especially with women, because we're caretakers, and God forbid we try to take care of ourselves and do something to build our success up, or, you know, or fill our cup up first, or however you want to say it. It was, you know, just built into us that everybody else should come first. And we now know that no, in order to give back to, you know, our loved ones and our family, our spouses, our children, our friends, or our workplace even, we have to take care of ourselves first. That has to be a priority, and it's not selfish.
Oh, yes. You're talking my language. Thank you. But, you know, I say it all the time, but sometimes it's just good to have somebody else reaffirm it and say it. And then people go, oh, okay, I've heard this now from multiple people. Right. It's not selfish. I can start to really believe that.
Yep. Well, I got it. Yep. I feel that way as a mom. You just made me feel like when I talk to my kids about anything. I keep saying kids. My daughter is an adult, and my son is almost an adult too, but they're always going to be my kids. You know, it's like, you tell them that. It'll sound better coming from you.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes you just need that third party person to say it. Like, happens all the time with my husband. I'll say something. He's like, yeah, okay, Karen. And then somebody else will say, he's like, hey, I just had this great. I'm like, dude, we talked about this last week. I told you to do that, but whatever. He needed to hear it from somebody else. Now he's on board. So I got what I wanted at the end. Don't fight it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit maybe about mottos. Do you have a motto that you live by? And if so, would you share it?
Well, I have one that I have tons. Like I'm like the quote person. When I was working in an office, I had so many quotes. My co-manager used to tease me. He's like, "Oh, how many more tomorrows before we say today?" And I like you talked about we can have it all, right? And I do believe that. I think we can have it all, maybe not all at once. Like sometimes, and I know that you're a big believer in that too, we can have it all, but we have to prioritize what we want and the energy we're going to use to go and get it. It's back to, biting off more than we can chew. Some timing is really key for everybody, right? Sometimes it just might not be the right time, so on and so forth. The other one I love, and it's mine, so if you want to use it, you guys got credit, Valerie J. Welsh, and I love it, is when we cling to what we know, we miss the chance to grow.
Oh, fire, mic drop.
Wrapped out there for a minute. When we cling to what we know, we miss the chance to grow.
That's so good.
Those words might be mine, but the thoughts behind them are not. This is what I've learned from everybody in the strong mindset community, fitness community, coaching, therapy, mental health advocacy. It's essentially, what is holding us back? If we cling on to that, whatever it is, overeating, alcohol, verbal abuse, imposter syndrome, whatever it is, we're going to miss our chance to grow. We're going to miss our chance to bloom.
Yeah. I was just working on this with a client this week on accepting a compliment and learning to accept a compliment and not even just say like, "Oh, thank you," and then beat yourself up like they're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about, all that. I'm like, and she's like, "I don't know if I can do it." And I'm like, well, if you don't try something new, then your confidence isn't going to change, right? So if you cling to what you know and you do things the way you've always done them, if you think the way you've always thought, nothing's going to change. You could pay for coaching and come to my sessions all day long, but you got to actually do something different. And that's the opportunity to grow. So I love that I can now credit you and use this in my sessions because I didn't have such a succinct way to articulate it. So that's great.
Yeah, if you get fancy and you want to name the science behind it, it's really neuroscience.
Yeah.
Right? Anything that we want to change, if we do it repetitively, cognitive behavior therapy, it's all just changing the patterns and the neuroplasticity in our brain. You break your right arm, it probably looks like my left in the camera, and you have to use your left arm. It's going to take some time and practice, but the more you do it, the easier it's going to become.
Yeah. Oh, solid. Thank you for sharing that with us. So let's just I know we're running out of time here, but I would love just to talk a little bit more about the challenges and your mental health struggles. How do you manage your mental health now? And what tips do you have for other people who are struggling with anxiety and depression?
Well, I like to keep things really simple, and that applies even when you're talking about a complex subject like mental health. Mm-hmm. I am not a professional. I'm an advocate. And when I say that, I can only share what works for me. I can just tell my story. So if something that I use and something that helps me works for you, great. What I do right now is I think of my mental health as an illness, and my illness is in remission. I don't really have symptoms of anxiety or acute bouts of depression right now. And I really do credit first and foremost my sobriety to that. Mm-hmm. And because all the tools that I've used for a very long time, they were working, but I needed other things. So my sobriety, my faith, something I've used for over 25 years, movement. I have to move mostly every day. If I don't, and if I had string 2 or 3 days of that, and my family's like, "Oh, please go out for a walk. Get on your bike." And then the last piece, and this is, for those who know me, they know this is the hardest piece, believe it or not. But if you talk to a lot of trainers, we're human. We're not superhuman. Is the nutritional piece. Because what we eat every day impacts our gut, which impacts our brain, which impacts our mood. So when I can string a few weeks or a few days, a few weeks, few months of really mindful, good eating together, I can notice a change of my attitude, my stress, my anxieties, whatever. I can keep them at bay. So faith, recovery, movement, and nutrition.
Yeah, thank you. I think those are great tips, and definitely things that I'm going to think about as I go have lunch after this to make sure it's something healthy.
One thing I do want to say in our age of connecting online is making connection, whether that's online or in person or whatever, making connections is huge.
Yeah. And following people, I'll just throw this in there too, following people who inspire you. So I have a couple of clients that are working on body image and how they look at their bodies. And so I've got them introduced and following some accounts where they show cellulite, or they show them sitting over in the stomach rolls, because that's what natural bodies do. And they're not photoshopped. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. This is giving me such hope for my own body and how I think about my own body. And I'm like, that's great. So don't follow the little skinny supermodels that are stressing you out, you know?
That's awesome, Karen. That's so powerful.
Yeah. It makes a big difference when that stuff pops up in your feed. So anyway, tell us about this second book. I know it's not coming out until probably January of 2024, but give us like a little sneak peek. What's it about? And just tease us, because we're excited.
Okay, I'm excited because first of all, it's much lighter. I mean, Shattered to the Core, for those of you who don't know, is a memoir about a really hard time in my life, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of left off where people are going like, oh, like, what do you do now? Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, yes, I'm okay. That was 10 years ago. And anyhow, and with a lot of perspective, I was able to write this book. And this book is essentially, it's just short stories. It's not chronological. So if you looked at the table of contents, you can be like, oh, pivot. This chapter is about pivoting. That's cool. Let me look at that. And then I tell a story in something that happened in my life and the lesson I learned from it. So it's just short, inspirational stories that, you know, the life lessons that they taught me, hopefully funny, definitely inspiring, and some takeaways. And it's more of a workbook as well. This is going to be more of a workbook, which is going to be really nice because I want to give my readers a gift of being able to use it for themselves and pass it on to another person.
Oh, I love that. Well, we're definitely going to be following you. We'll put your social links in the chat below, but I know your Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. So make sure you look out for Valerie J. Walsh. And I would love to give you the last word. If you could say one thing to the women who want a change but don't know how to get started, what would you say?
Just start. Just start, like literally just start, whether it's DMing somebody on Instagram or, you know, one small thing you can do every day. Don't wait till you're going to be ready, because I'm telling you right now, you won't be ready, but you can start today.
Yeah. Yeah. Waiting till we're ready or perfectionism is like the enemy of progress. So I love that. Great advice. This has been such a joy. I could talk to you all day. Thank you for being here.
I'm excited for you. I cannot wait until your book launches in the fall. I'm going to be definitely picking it up and sharing it too.
Thank you. Yes. Grab Life by the Dreams. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on my Instagram handle or Facebook. I just released the cover design. So I'm excited for that too. Thank you for being here. Everybody, go get Shattered to the Core. It's available right now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold digitally. I know you will love it, and it'll give you a lot of hope and inspiration for reclaiming your own life and dealing with some of the big, heavy things going on in your life. So thank you. And now, ladies.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome. Go rock your reinvention. We'll see you next time.